I think by now everyone already knows that all the skins in League have lore, with tons of universes full of really cool stuff. However, what many people don't realize is that one of the least explored universes is the Runeterra universe. There's a type of skin, canonical skins, that represent that champion at some point in the lore, and in this video I'm going to talk about all of them. Skins from the past, starting with Young Rise. One of the rarest skins in League, and also one of the coolest, is Young Rise, showing him back at the beginning of his journey to hunt the world runes, back when his body wasn't yet altered by magic. There's a similar version to this skin in the Ruination book, which is pretty cool. Anyway, this skin was exclusive to the retail collector's edition of League, which came with several skins, like Black Alistar and Silver Kale, those three making the trio of the rarest skins in League. We also have the skin for King Viego, which basically shows the way he looked when he was alive in Camivore with Isolde. He's basically the version from the Ruination book, and Riot could eventually do a similar skin style for Callista and Hecarim someday. Next we have Acolyte Lee Sin. This shows an alternative version of younger Lee Sin, who is trying to adapt to his monk robes and the spirit power of the dragon, while being the best student at the Shojin Monastery, or in other words, a version of Lee Sin before he was exiled. Next we have Cutthroat Graves and Cutpurse Twisted Fate. A really sick event from a long time ago was the Bilgewater Burning Tides event, which still stands as one of the best lore style events the game had. With tons of cool skins, and even better, these two were lore skins. That includes the skin for Graves and Twisted Fate, showing them in their youth, when they were friends just starting out a partnership. We also have Captain Misfortune and Captain Gangplank from that same event. Captain Fortune is MF's skin from after she became a pirate queen of Bilgewater. That event happened around the same time GP got a rework. In his champion Spotlight, back then his appearance matched the Captain Gangplank skin. But after GP died in the lore of that event and was disabled in the client, when he came back, he resurfaced with a new, more worn appearance, missing an arm, which became his base skin. Meanwhile, the Captain Gangplank skin just shows a version of him from the past, when he was the King of Thieves. There are also some skins from Bilgewater that shows the champions as versions from that region. And while some aren't canon, like Katarina or Swain from Bilgewater, the skin for Fiddlesticks Pegleg actually is canon and shows how Fiddlesticks is seen in that region. Leaving Bilgewater behind, we have traditional Sejuani. Besides showing roughly what Sejuani looked like before her rework, it was confirmed that the skin represents Sejuani's youth, kind of like Young Rise. There's also Viscero Zinzao, which represents him during his time in the Noxian Gladiator pits. Additionally, there's a lot of skins from the Grand Reckoning line that show a new version of this kind of arena fighter skins for some of the Noxian champions. Scion's skin in particular is a representation how he looked when he was alive, which we can see in the video, The Root of Empire, where he appears killing Jarvan first. That was when he actually died in the lore. Next we have the Black Rose Ball. Let's start with Elise, who is said to be the hostess of this masked ball and is aiming to gather more allies for the Black Rose, after Swain's rise to power in Noxus. However, underneath the surface, we find that the ball was actually ordered by LeBlanc herself. Next is Renata Glass, who was invited by Elise to the ball, because Renata was gaining more and more power while expanding her influence across Zaun and Piltover, thereby making her a candidate who Elise coveted as a possible ally for the Black Rose. Third, we have Black Rose Ball Ezreal, where Ezreal receives an invitation from Elise for the Silk Ball, under his codename Jarl Lightfeather. On the interactive map of Runeterra, you can see that Ezreal got a Black Rose invitation a long time ago. Next is Vladimir, invited to the ball by order of LeBlanc, so he could secure new partners for the Crimson Circle and thus contribute to raising the Black Rose's power. Then we have Samira, who was invited to the ball after a trusted captain named Indari praised her deeds, drawing Elise's attention to a possible alliance. And finally, Katarina, who is tasked by a mysterious patron to assassinate someone at Elise's ball, someone who is most likely the guy who appears in the cinematic Welcome to Noxus. And adding on to what I said about that cinematic, we also have the Prestige Triumphant Darius skin, which shows what Darius looked like after the fight he had with Trundle, but with some tweaks, like making him look older than he really is in the cinematic. Moving on to the next ones, we have Frosted Ezreal, Sylas, and Freljord Talia. The Freljord skins are meant to show a period when a certain champion passed through that region, like Sylas, who after leaving Demacia went to Freljord in the short story The Shackles of Belief, and also in the 2020 Warriors cinematic. But because of the Mage Seeker game, that skin won't be considered canon anymore, since the story of the Mage Seeker Rebellion got retconned. At the end of the Mage Seeker arc, he kind of makes peace with Demacia, at least to a certain point. Jarvan even decrees royal pardon for the mages of the kingdom, so Sylas kind of goes to Freljord to find refuge for his people. The Freljord Talia skin represents roughly the same time when Talia passed through the Freljord after leaving Ionia. In her lore, she had some rough moments during her her journey when she passed through Nexus, and then reached Yasuo in Ionia. And when she had to return to Shurima, Yasuo suggested that she go through Freljord, so she wouldn't have to pass through Nexus again. As for Frosted Ezreal, that's basically just Ezreal during a random Freljord expedition. The skin's description says he hides his identity to deal with the dangers there. That's why his outfit looks so different in the skin. Unfortunately, it doesn't really make sense that his gauntlet would change, but maybe that's just for the aesthetics of the skin. This skin is pretty similar to Talia's in that regard, more of a representation than a full canonical visual, the same as Silas's skin. And before we get to the next skin line, I just want to mention, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like on the video, and maybe consider becoming a member to get access to a bunch of cool perks. And while you're down there, don't forget to click the link to go to our store. There's a lot of really cool designs available and cool merch, so go check it out. Next up, we have Spirit Guardian Udyr and his age variant looks. This skin recently became canon with the short story A Walk with the Voices, which shows that this version of Udyr is from the time when he wandered through Ionia alongside Lee Sin at Hirana Monastery, learning about the spirits of that region and assuming new forms. Many of Udyr's appearance variants show his journey over time, like his pre-work visuals represented his young phase, say around age 35. Then later, he went to Ionia to learn to control his spiritual power around age 40, and after returning to Freljord, as seen in Legends of Runeterra, maybe around age 50. After his rework, his current appearance could be thought as him being older, almost 60, with a lot more experience and wisdom under his belt. Continuing with the bear skins, we've got Volibear and Runeguard armor. This skin is described to be a what if Volibear was wearing armor crafted by Ornn. After his rework, the idea of Volibear as an armored bear was kind of set aside to follow the champion's main lore. But this skin is both a nice reference to when he still had Ornn's blessing and a homage to his old armored look before his rework. Next, we have Mad Scientist Ziggs. This skin was canon for a while. Ziggs appears wearing the same outfit in the short story Bombs a Tribute, but that story was based off the old comic with Jinx and Ziggs. Nowadays, that story isn't considered canon anymore. So Mad Scientist Ziggs is technically no longer considered canon. Now we shift to another type of canon skins, which are entire skin lines that are canon. Let's start with Spirit Blossom. The Spirit Blossom skins are technically half canon, since they don't represent the champions, but rather spirits of Ionia, with stories similar to those champions because they have some connection to them in lore. For example, Spirit Blossom Yasuo and Spirit Blossom Yone, which represent two spirit brothers destined to face each other, with the spirit of obsession being a central theme represented in the skin line by Spirit Blossom Thresh. So in the lore of Runeterra, Yasuo and Yone were never actually Spirit Blossom skins, but the spirits they represented still exist or existed. This applies to all the Spirit Blossom skins except for Spirit Blossom Kindred. Beyond those, we have Spirit Blossom Karma, representing the spirit of Ionia that reincarnates in every incarnation of Karma. Spirit Blossom Lee Sin, a wandering spirit that once threatened to destroy the physical world in a fit of rage. Spirit Blossom Nidalee, a lost spirit that can shift into a feline form, searching for answers, though maybe she already has them. Spirit Blossom Kayle and Morgana, twin spirits created by Karma. Morgana's spirit was condemned to wander after creating the Kanmei and Ikanas, while Kayle's spirit remains vigilant. Spirit Blossom Master Yi, the spirit of a master betrayed by his pupil, condemned to wander with a broken heart searching for that disciple. Spirit Blossom Soraka, a star ripped from the sky by a stone giant, condemned to roam the mortal world. She helps anyone she meets. Spirit Blossom Teemo, a mischievous spirit that plays tricks on mortals, used as a spooky myth to scare Ionian children. Spirit Blossom Tristana, a spirit that tests your luck, deciding whether you gain a reward or lose everything, kind of like rolling the dice. Spirit Blossom Ashe and Spirit Blossom Irelia, Ashe representing the wandering queen and Irelia the ready hand, who once protected that queen. According to the myth, the queen switched places with the mother of the forest to be held captive. Upon returning, she found the mother fighting Irelia, who intervened and died. The ready hand was then imprisoned as a spirit in Akana and condemned to wander the morning forever. Spirit Blossom Evelyn, a spirit called the Sorrow Eater, offered to feed on the negative emotions of mortals to make them feel better. One day, the spirit fed on a desperate woman's feelings, leaving her emotionless. Spirit Blossom Vayne, a lone hunter chasing the monster that destroyed her species. They say she still hunts monsters today, blind to the fact that maybe she herself has become one. Spirit Blossom Cassiopeia, she was a princess who envied her sister for being the heir to the throne, so she decided to poison her sister, but she ended up becoming half woman, half snake. Spirit Blossom Yorick, he was the protector of the sacred forest, but when it was burnt down, he became an Akana spirit that uses the flames of the burned forest. Spirit Blossom Akali, a young master ordered Akali to rip out her own heart to face the world, but she couldn't. With her heart intact, she now searches for the burning shade. Spirit Blossom Riven, a spirit who defeated hundreds of enemies, but her sword sword broke on her last opponent. They say the spirit still wanders, searching for the pieces of the blade. Spirit Blossom Lux, a young girl freed a trapped spirit, and she could choose a treasure as a reward. She chose a stone, which she actually turned out to be a shell with 2 pearls that became a staff. The girl then decides to use the staff's magic to help people. Spirit Blossom Ari, a spirit who offers mortals the path of salvation, but doesn't intervene when they take the wrong path. Spirit Blossom Varus, a temple guardian archer who allowed a young artist to enter the temple. The artist painted something, but the painting jumped off the canvas and destroyed the temple. The archer then swore vengeance against the painter. Spirit Blossom Darius, a soldier who wielded a magical axe taken as war spoils. The axe had an endless thirst for blood, so he was condemned to fight for all eternity. Spirit Blossom Syndra, a tree that trapped a will-o-wisp with its roots. The wisp fought until it broke one of the roots, tasting freedom, a blessing it grants to everyone it meets along the way. Spirit Blossom Zyra, a woman with a broken heart, had a wish granted by a powerful spirit that turned her body into a plant, creating the Garden of Forgetting. Spirit Blossom Zed, legends tell of a flaming shadow that sacrificed itself in vain. It now haunts rebellious warriors, turning them into shadow clones. Spirit Blossom Ivern, when the wandering queen died, she was buried under the tree planted at her birth. The tree was actually a friendly spirit that always protected the queen. Spirit Blossom Bard, the keeper of the garden roams, collecting the memories of travelers who wish to forget their own pain. Spirit Blossom Aphelios, spirit siblings, with the brother Midnight and the sister Moonlight representing the day-night cycle. Spirit Blossom Set, a Kanmei spirit and a Kana spirit had a child, who now seeks revenge against his demonic father. Spirit Blossom Lilia, after the burning of the sacred forest, a fawn guardian who protected the forest alongside a caretaker wanders the morning, collecting the dreams of the destruction. Spirit Blossom Hui, an artist spirit who uses the essence of Kanmei and Akana in his works. One day he destroyed a temple after painting a guardian archer, a lesson to remind him that art must stay true to oneself. Spirit Blossom Kindred is different, because since kindred are literally spirits, their forms, or most of their skins, depend on how people interpret the feeling of being between life and death. In Ionia, kindred are seen with the lamb as a child and the wolf as their pet fox. Since most Ionian people live in harmony with the spirits, they usually accept a peaceful death and are ended by the lamb, while the wolf stays more restrained in this version. This is different from the Chosen by Wolf skins. That skin line is 100% based on how Noxians view their constant struggle with death in the battle. For Noxians, death is a sign of surrender, so they keep fighting until their last breath. In this line, even a lamb becomes a wolf, so a Noxian simply accepting death is practically unheard of. The other skins in this line represent champions who have faced death up close, like Pantheon. However, in this skin, it's said that the spear-wielding warrior isn't Artrius, but some random Noxian general. Swain and Katarina aren't super clear about where they were faced with death, but since Pantheon in this line isn't the goated aspect we know, it's pretty reasonable to assume that these two are just Noxians who died who are being represented by the champions. This is different for Mbessa's skin. For her, this skin shows a vision of the champion in the future. While the trailer she got showed a moment of her past while she was pregnant with Mel, in that clip she almost died, being confronted with the death trial, but was able to fight back and prevail. By the way, minor Arcane spoilers ahead, but I actually think Mbessa is coming back in the next season of Arcane. I wouldn't be surprised if she really did die in the first season, but I think she'll be revived. And there's a pretty simple way Riot could do that. There are tons of LOR cards showing Noxian soldiers being brought back as zombies to keep fighting. There are literally cards showing her as a soldier alive, then again after being revived. Technically, Sion is the biggest example of this, but he was revived decades after his death, so I don't really count him. Speaking of Arcane, we've got the 2 Arcane-themed skin lines from the first and second seasons of the series. Back in 2021, when the first season dropped, Riot released 4 free skins along with that Arcane event, showing the champions look from the series: Jace, Vi, Caitlyn, and finally Jinx. They're pretty basic redesigns of the champions, and looking back today, they could be basically considered the new canonical appearances for the models. A bit later, a 5th skin came out, which was the only paid one from that first season batch, Firelight Echo, which honestly is the most beautiful skin out of those 5, and also one of the best looking Echo skins ever. Now, the second season skins show variation of champions based on what happens in the series. We got Arcane Brawler Vi and Arcane Commander Caitlyn from Act 2, and Survivor Jace, which I think was the most anticipated skin in the whole set, since we hadn't seen anything like that until episode 5, only unlocking his full look in episode 8. There was also Jinx's free minigame skin, Shimmer Lab Singed, which is basically the new canonical look for Singed if you really think about it. Echo got another kind of weird skin that doesn't really match his look from the last episode of the series. Heimer got his first Arcane skin based on the alternate universe, along with Warwick Vander, who ended up with a look way better than what was shown in the series. Then there's Jinx's overpriced $250 skin, which was recently updated to make it look a little less terrible, though it's stupidly expensive. Finally, we got Arcane Survivor Victor, meant to represent Victor in that astral plane where he was with Sky, with glowing white hair and some super sick effects. That skin came out looking amazing, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the new Victor model. I think his base model is better than the old one, since the model felt stiff and less fluid, but his skins are really poorly done. It's not about him being thinner, it's just that these skins aren't as detailed as the old ones were. On screen, you can see how the skins used to be on the left, how they are now on the right, and what they could have been in the middle. And the ones in the middle actually look really good, even with better animation and fluidity. The current versions are way uglier than the old ones, and even compared to the ones in the middle. Now moving on to that skin line that's 100% canonical, but not in a great way this time, which are the skins that came with the Ruination event. That's the Sentinels of Light and the Ruined skins. The Sentinels of Light skins showed the champions recruited by Lucian and Senna to help fight Viego. The first one recruited was Vayne, and she was actually the only one to keep that look and the Sentinel weapons after the event, as we can see on her Legends of Runeterra cards. Riot preferred this look instead of doing a redesign of that weird look she has in League, with the giant ponytail and leotard. Honestly, this skin is way better, even if it was just a paid graphical rework. Vayne's skin fits perfectly with the lore, both for the event and for her character, but you can't say the same for the other Sentinel skins from that event. Olaf, for example, just wanted to fight Viego to see if he could die. Riven joined the Sentinels just because. Irelia was pretty much the same deal. Diana abandoned her people right after discovering the Luminari were alive and needed her help. Graves literally stole from the Sentinels, yet they still included him in the group for some reason. Pyke's a Revenant, technically someone they were supposed to fight, but he was cool so he got in. And the worst of all was Rengar, because he wanted to hunt the biggest prey ever, which was Viego. And in this event, Rengar got completely messed up. Like, you look at Rengar and you see this huge white lion predator style hunter, and then in the event he's a total joke, saying meow and acting dumb as hell. The other skin line that ran parallel to the Sentinels of Light was the Ruin skins, featuring champions like Draven and Shyvana, which actually makes sense. As I mentioned in my video explaining this terrible event, there's also Karma, who makes the least sense out of all of them. Karma is literally the avatar of one of the most powerful spirits in all of Runeterra, and her whole theme is about mental and spiritual control over herself, and yet Viego randomly managed to control her mind. Then there's Pantheon, and even though it's a skin that makes sense, Viego resurrecting a Celestial, that easily is basically game over. I don't get how Pantheon alone didn't just wipe out all of the Sentinels of Light. Pantheon alone should be way stronger than Viego, and I'm not even talking about Artrias. I'm talking about the actual War Celestial, the one that Aatrox killed and that Viego brought back. This also really undermines all the character development Artrias had up to that point. Honestly, just Artrias alone should have been able to resist Viego's control, since his whole theme is about having ridiculously strong willpower, which by the way, also got a skin, Prestige Ascended Pantheon, showing the body of a fully empowered Artrias who had merged with the Celestial of War. There's also MF's skin, which, as I mentioned in my video, has a really weak motivation for why she would become Viego's servant, plus the version of her skin in Ruined King is way better and way cooler. Speaking of the Ruined King game, besides all the Ruined skins of the champions in that game, which are all canonical, two special skins from the game came to League, Gangplank the Betrayer and Sea Dog Yasuo. Gangplank the Betrayer is his look in that game, shirtless and super jacked, and in the recall animation for that skin, you can see him grabbing the sword of the Ruined King and getting possessed by Viego, just like his boss fight in the game. That's a really cool reference. Sea Dog Yasuo isn't really canonical, it's a more of what if. It shows what Yasuo would have looked like if he ended up in the Serpent Isles. Joined the Buru, followed Nagakeboros's teachings, and kept moving with them. Moving on, there's one skin that's kind of similar to Prestige Ascended Pantheon skin, Zoe's Prestige Eternal Aspect skin. It shows a possible future form of Zoe, or maybe a representation of the Celestial Twilight itself. It's not super clear in the skin description or the wiki. Speaking of what if skins, following the same Ascended theme, there's also Transcended Kale, which shows Kale becoming the new aspect of Justice after replacing her mother in the possible distant future. Now talking about the next set of skins, they're canon in a way, but in alternative situations and futures within the canonical Runeterra universe. Tyrant Swain. This one's a what if where Rom takes control of Swain's body. Even though he's a great leader for his people, the Grand General succumbs to the powers of the ancient demon Rom and loses control of his own body. His body gets modified and his magic changes from red to green. Foreseen Yasuo. One of them is the old Yasuo skin, or Foreseen Yasuo, which is said to be the vision Yasuo had of himself dying old in battle, like we saw in the Still Here cinematic. It doesn't mean that this death is Yasuo's sealed fate, it's just one of the possible endings for the champion. Redeemed Riven and Crimson Elite. When Riven launched, she got 2 release skins based on her lore, representing the 2 possible paths for her. One was Redeemed Riven, showing her finding forgiveness for her past regrets, and kind of becoming whole again, which is kind of what happened to her in the canon Runeterra universe, just in a different way. Then there was Crimson Elite Riven, showing a version of Riven who doesn't regret letting her comrades die and becomes a mercenary assassin for Nexus. Actually, Crimson Elite Talon is kind of like Talon joining the same order, in case he was never adopted by Katarina's father and never became part of the Ducato family. So, in the end, he would also just be a part of that order. And finally, there's Demon Blade Tryndamere, which is a possible future for Tryndamere. Right now, we don't know if this skin will ever become canon, but it basically shows what Tryndamere would look like if he was consumed by a demon inside him. But after the skin was sent to Wild Rift, it was completely reworked to fit a more darkened themed vibe. So until Tryndamere gets a popular visual update, which honestly he really needs, we can't say for sure if this skin is canon or not. So it stays in that in-between zone. I think it's funny that even in this old, outdated skin has already appeared in a cinematic, and Shaco hasn't. Another line of the skins showing a what if of champions dominated by Darkens are the Fallen Vision skins, which are for Tryndamere, Jarvan IV, and Garen, showing these champions fully corrupted by Darkens. And the most recent lore-driven skin is the Trials of Twilight Xin Zhao, showing Xin Zhao right before his merge with Zahit. But yeah, that's basically it. I'll see you guys in the next video.